Thank you, John. Some of you may have seen earlier today, we actually released the customer satisfaction survey results that we took in the fourth quarter of last year in 2017. We finished that up with our consultant, Rockbridge Associates, earlier this year, and I want to present to you some of the results that we found, at least in a summary fashion here. All right, about the survey. It was conducted in Q4 of 2017 by an independent contractor named Rockbridge Associates. That's the same organization that conducted the customer satisfaction survey on your behalf back in 2014. The objectives of the survey were to determine the members' expectations and needs from Aaron, assess current satisfaction with Aaron services and operations, to determine any unmet needs members have, to identify and prioritize areas for improvement, and to understand how Aaron's current performance compares to that's indicated by the previous survey completed in 2014. Now, if you want to look at the full report by Rockbridge Associates, that's now available at aaron.net, and you can browse there by going to About Us and then look under the Corporate Documents title, and you'll find the customer satisfaction surveys there. Now, one of the ways that Rockbridge Associates conducts their surveys is they create performance to expectation measurements. Rockbridge believes that there are some survey takers that would not define perfect on a 1 to 10 scale as a 10. So what they like to do is they like to ask the survey taker, what is a perfect score? What is excellent services to you? Is that an 8? Is that a 9? Is that a 10? And then alongside that, ask the question, okay, if you tell us a 9 is what we should be shooting for, how did we do? How do you rate us out of that 9? And that's basically how they build the surveys. Now, the survey takers will then grade Aaron's performance against their own standard expectation markers using that method. Now, what they advised to us back in 2014, and again at the beginning of this year after the end of this survey, is they advised the following for performance to expectation gaps. So if you tell us that you expect a 9, but you tell us we're performing at a 7, we've got a gap there. And so, but really what it is, they mark it as a 90, and you mark us as a 70, and there's a 20-point gap. Now, what they've told us is that in their rating system, and you'll see a slide that follows this, it explains it better, but anything where there's more than a 10-point gap, they advise us that there is a concentrated effort needed to remediate inside that space. Anything that's fewer than a 10-point gap, they say is good for an organization like Aaron's. And anything fewer than a 5-point gap, they consider to be excellent in meeting expectations. Now, when we did this survey back in 2013, 2014, we had several major marker areas where we were more than 10 points away from expectation. And we've done a lot of work over the last couple of years to remediate that. So this is what the scorecard looks like. What you'll find as you go through the full survey is that the dotted line area is actually what the community collectively said their expectation is. This is what our expectation is of the organization. And the colored line that goes with that, that's filled in by a color, that is where you actually rated us collectively as a community. And you can actually see going through this year's survey result that they show you the comparison to 2014 in every marked area. So this is how we scored this time compared to 2014. In these major areas, you can see our points from expectation that were 10 points or more in nearly every area where we were graded by the community. And we've actually reduced or closed that gap in almost all of the areas, and all of the areas actually when it comes to the overall performance. But when you actually dig into each of these areas in the full survey, you'll find in some areas that perhaps the gap grew a little bit. But in the overall performance, we made some significant improvements over the last couple of years. But we still have a lot of work to do inside the organization to close those gaps even more. At the beginning of the survey, they asked some general questions. They want to know how satisfied in general you are with the organization meeting your needs. They'd like to know if you're satisfied with the fees or not that you pay to the organization for the services that you receive. And they get asked, the survey takers get asked the question, if you were able to choose another registry services provider, how likely would you be to stay with ARIN or to go to another registry services provider? And you can see that those markers changed a little bit too over the last couple of years. In 2014, over general satisfaction, about 93% of the organizations were satisfied with ARIN. And this time that number grew a little bit in the highly satisfied area. But when it comes to the dissatisfied customers, that stayed steady at about 7% for the survey takers. For the fees, you can see there was a similar type change, but not as much. And with likelihood to continue using ARIN services, we actually improved in that area from where there were 13% last time that were not likely, and this time there were 9% that would not be likely to continue using ARIN services if they had a choice. Now, what we're going to do in our future survey, we plan to do this survey again, and we're going to make some changes next time. So we got some feedback this time in the survey. We're going to look to conduct a similar survey in approximately 2 years, but we're going to provide 2 options for the survey next time. Feedback was the survey's too long. Now, we were trying our best to make sure, for benchmarking purposes, that the survey was as near exact the same as it was last time, so we can see how we improved or we didn't improve over the period of the last 3 years. But the next time we do this survey, you're going to get given the option at the very beginning of the survey to either take a short survey that will be 5 minutes or less, or if you're interested in providing more detail, you could take a longer survey that would be approximately 15 minutes. And they will be able to give us results based on those 2 different types of surveys that people might take. Between the larger surveys, we will continue to conduct transaction surveys and collect feedback through our regular channels. We've got the feedback button. We've got customer contacts over the telephone, via email, and inside of our tickets in the ARIN portal, and et cetera. We'll continue to measure that and do those markers between the surveys. We do want you to know that you have our continued commitment to make improvements in those areas. In the ARIN organization, as staff, you are the #1 priority for us, and we're constantly working and striving to find better ways to improve our services. We value your feedback as the customers of ARIN. It is a key element to our decision-making process, and we can't function properly as a registry without receiving that feedback. Every week where we sit down and we have meetings about decisions on how we're going to move forward with certain areas of work, we always consider the feedback that's being received from the customers. In these surveys, in the telephone calls, inside the tickets, and it guides us. It helps drive decisions on how we're going to make improvements or do the job better for you. So please continue to provide that. And we'll use this survey result and other feedback, like I said, to continue making improvements over the next few years. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Richard? No? Thank you, Richard.
All right, thanks, Jim.